What is up, Omnibus Collectors? It's Riley, and I am back with a haul for books from October and November and all kinds of exciting stuff, so stay tuned. So like I said, we got a new haul. This is stuff from October and November. I have been trying to put together a haul video for like the past month, and basically every time I would film a haul and get ready to edit and post it on my channel, another package would arrive, or I would expect one to arrive, or life just kind of gets in the way and I wasn't able to do it. So here we are. I'm finally putting this together. This should be the one that makes it onto my channel. If you didn't watch my previous video, I did a haul for manga, and I know about half or maybe more of my subscribers here are not manga fans, and that's awesome. That's cool. You do you. But for those of you who didn't watch that video, really exciting. I hit 10,000 subscribers just earlier this week, and it is such an exciting thing, such a momentous thing, and I am very excited to be at that point in my YouTube career. So yeah, I feel like I should make some sort of a celebratory video. I had one of my viewers, and you're probably going to watch this video as well, suggest I do a live stream and answer questions. So if anyone has suggestions as to what I should do to celebrate my 10K, let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, let's get into talking about my haul for October and the first half of November. First item is not a comic per se, but it is a comic related thing, and a lot of people may have picked this up as well. I did get the Spider-Man Miles Morales game on the PS4. I did not get a PS5. I don't have interest just yet in grabbing the new console. Basically, whenever new consoles come out, I do wait until there's, at least a handful of games that I really want, and ones that, in the case of this Spider-Man game, are not ones that I can get on either system, So I'll probably wind up getting one, hopefully by next holiday is when I'll be interested in getting one. But in the meantime, I grabbed the Miles game on PS4. My wife and I loved the previous Spider-Man game. We got the DLC, we played through 100%, did the game, New Game Plus and stuff on there. And then I got this one as well, and we beat this one in the first weekend because, as most people know at this point, is a much smaller, much shorter game, even though the price is not that much lower than the original game. And it was a lot of fun. I really loved the game. I loved the interpretation of Miles in there, and especially the way that we see him act as a character. There's little nuances to him, like the way that he swings on his webs and stuff, that are just beautiful. If you were a fan of the first game, you'll definitely love this one, though I can understand why some people might be waiting a little bit to grab a copy of the game, since it is a little pricey at $50 for a game that takes maybe 10 hours to beat. And that's including a lot of the side stuff, because we've 100%ed it within the course of playing across 3 days, and that's, a few hours each day, so it's not that lengthy of a game. Anyway, enough on that. I do want to say I want to make a video where I discuss my feelings on what characters, what villains and stuff, and what plot lines could or should appear in the eventual full sequel to that PS4 Spider-Man game. So if anyone would be interested in that, hearing my take on the game and my take on what I'd like to see from the sequel, let me know in the comments down below. It might be something that would be fun to do. Anyway, let's get into actual comics and stuff. I'm going to do by publisher this time, so instead of doing it from like the largest to smallest books, I'm going to be talking about each publisher individually. So from IDW, I've got one book that is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Collection Volume 11. I am always excited about these new hardcovers when they come out. I read the series as it comes out monthly, along with all of the mini-series and one-shots and all that stuff. And I love these hardcovers because they collect everything into perfect chronological order, so that you can read everything TMNT that IDW is doing all in one place. It's a really awesome package. I highly recommend it. Most of the books get kept in stock, and IDW seems to go back to print with them whenever they do go out of stock. So it's something that it seems basically they're keeping this set evergreen. And if you're a fan of TMNT at all, I definitely recommend it. If you're not a fan, yet, pick up maybe the first paperback just to try it out, see what you feel. You might enjoy it and you might want to pick up these awesome hardcovers. Next, I've got one book from Dark Horse, and that is the Umbrella Academy Library Edition for Hotel Oblivion. This is the third Umbrella Academy series. After a long break after the second series, Dallas Gerard Way came back and started to write Hotel Oblivion, which he had teased for a really long time. And that series ended and got collected in a paperback and eventually into this nice hardcover that looks great on the shelf alongside the library editions of the first and second series. Now this one, as far as the actual story goes, was not nearly as strong as the other two. I enjoyed it, but not as much as I was hoping I would, considering the long break that we had between the second and the third series. I've literally been waiting for this to come out since the second series ended. I read that in single issues, so it's been quite the wait since then. This is not the end of the Umbrella Academy in comics, as we do have a current miniseries focusing on the character Klaus that's being published at Dark Horse called You Look Like Death. It is written by Gerard Way, but it does not have the brothers Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba doing the artwork, so it does have a new artist on there. But if you're a fan of Umbrella Academy, definitely check it out. And if you're like me and Klaus is one of your favorite characters, then it's definitely going to be worth checking out. Moving from Dark Horse, let's check out what I have from DC. I've got a decent pile of books from DC, a lot of oversized hardcovers and stuff. The first book I have is a standard sized hardcover, starting off a little bit of a Batman kick that I've got going here, and that is Batman Night Out. Now this is material written by Chuck Dixon with Graham Nolan on artwork, collecting specifically issues 703 to 718 of Detective Comics. This is stuff that happens kind of before the Road to No Man's Land and No Man's Land stuff, but it happens after Nightfall and all of that jazz. So there was this chunk of material that has never been collected before. For years, it's never been collected, and this is the first time that these issues have been collected anywhere. So that's why this is such an exciting book that a lot of people jumped on, and I was very happy to jump on. This kind of partners well with the Doug Munch, Kelly Jones hardcovers that are about the same size, the same thickness as this. There were two of those hardcovers, and those collect Batman issues that took place around the same time as these Detective Comic issues. I believe that after this, there's only a little amount of issues. We don't have everything collected, but there's just a small amount of issues that have not been collected for Detective Comics, and then a small amount that have not been collected for Batman, when considering only post-crisis stuff. So I'm not counting anything from Gold, Silver, Bronze. I'm only talking about post-crisis Batman through current. Anyway, moving forward, like I said, we're on a little bit of a Batman kick here. Next, I've got the Batman, the Man Who Laughs Deluxe Edition hardcover. I really, really love this story. I did a video several months back talking about my favorite Batman stories, and this was one that I mentioned. This is a great story about the first case that Batman has where he has to go against the Joker. So we get to see some of the early Joker stuff happening in here, and as well as collecting that original graphic novel within this new deluxe edition hardcover. We also have the Made of Wood storyline, also written by Ed Brubaker. Ed Brubaker did the main story, I don't think I mentioned that. From Detective Comics 784 to 786, this was a short 3-issue arc which featured Batman teaming up with the Green Lantern, Alan Scott, who was the Golden Age Green Lantern, who, if you're not aware, has a weakness against wood. So hence the Made of Wood. It's dealing with a villain that kind of uses his weakness against him. This also collects, which was not collected in the original collected edition of The Man Who Laughs, but this also collects the Batman Gotham Noir story, which is the first collaboration between Brubaker and his oftentimes partner, Sean Phillips. So Sean Phillips, you'll recognize his name from being on the Criminal series and a lot of other things that Brubaker has done, specifically stuff over at Image. So this is really cool because it does add that material in here that has not been reprinted before, so I'm really excited to have that classic Brubaker-Phillips team up in my collection now. And the next Batman book we got is Gates of Gotham, the Deluxe Edition. Now this one I know went out of stock, and I think at this point DC is working on printing more copies. I'm hoping they are, because a lot of people missed out on this one. This collects the classic Gotham by Gaslight original graphic novel written by Brian Augustin with artwork by Mike Mignola, which of course you're going to recognize from the Hellboy comics and all of that universe over at Dark Horse. Basically, this is telling a story of Batman in the 19th century, Gotham City in the 19th century, where we have Batman going head-to-head with Jack the Ripper. But on top of collecting the original graphic novel short story, this also collects the follow-up and basically any other appearance of the Gaslight Batman story, that character, that version of the character. Any other appearance that he's made is collected here. So on top of the original Gotham by Gaslight, an alternate history of the Batman, we also have Batman Master of the Future, and then Countdown presents the search for Ray Palmer, Gotham by Gaslight #1, as well as Convergence Shazam numbers 1 and 2. So a bunch of Gotham by Gaslight related material is in this oversized hardcover. And I got one more Batman book here, and that is Batman Detective Comics number 1000 Deluxe Edition. This collects just the material from that number 1000 issue that came out, but it does have 2 bonus stories that were not collected before. So it does have a little bit of extra material. This is not that expensive of a book. It was just a $19.99 hardcover, which you can get easily for about half of that price if you buy online. I passed on this one back when it first came out, but when I read Detective Comics 1027, the most recent anniversary issue, because it's the 1000th anniversary since his first appearance in Detective Comics 27, I really loved that issue, and I decided I was definitely going to be picking up the hardcover of that one, so I thought my shelf would look a little bit bare if I had the 1027 hardcover, but not the number 1000 hardcover. So, that said, I've got the Detective Comics 1000 now in my collection. Next, from DC, I've got not a Batman book, finally, and that is Mr. Miracle, the oversized hardcover deluxe edition. So this one collects the entire 12-issue series from Tom King. King, of course, is pretty well known at this point for doing a lot of these 12-issue series. Over at Marvel, he had Vision. Over at Vertigo, he had Sheriff of Babylon. And then at DC, he has Mr. Miracle, and he preceded this with the Omega Men series as well. That one also has a hardcover. And then currently, he's doing the Strange Adventures series focusing on Adam Strange. And then coming out in December is the start of another 12-issue series, the Batman Catwoman series, which is meant to kind of be the follow-up and conclusion to all of his Batman work that he'd done on the main series. As well, he's doing a Rorschach spin-off series from the Watchmen universe that has 2 or 3 issues out at the moment. So this is the newest of his oversized hardcovers, collecting the entire 12-issue set into one hardcover book. This was all collected in one paperback before. If you've never read it, I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoy King, especially his 12-issue series like this. I think it's a brilliant book and I highly recommend it, but if you've never read it before, I do recommend either trying it digitally or picking up the paperback edition because it does have the same material for literally half the price. So instead of for $50 like this, it has a cover price of $25. But this is a beautiful looking hardcover. I love the way this looks. It has kind of a matte finish to the actual dust jacket, which you can tell because it's not as glossy as the other books that I've been holding up. And it has, it is a glued binding because it's not that big of a book, so that's not really going to impact that too much. And then just taking a quick look underneath the dust jacket, you can see this is a little bit glossier. And there we go. So I recommend this. I think it's a great book, especially if you're a fan of Tom King and his work. You should have a good time with that. This next one is a DC book that I've been waiting to be published. This has been on my wish list for like a decade at least, because DC never completely published this series. They never published every issue in collected edition. There was, I think, 20 issues total, and they only published about 12 to 14 of those, I don't remember the exact number, across 2 older paperback editions. And they finally announced this hardcover, and I did not believe it was going to happen, and they announced it, and I'm so happy that it happened, and I'm so happy that it actually got released, and that is Plastic Man. This is the deluxe edition, Rubber Banded. Now, this collects the entire 20 issues of Kyle Baker's run. Kyle Baker is a cartoonist that's been known for a lot of different material from DC, from Marvel, from Vertigo. He's done a ton of different books. Look up his name. You've likely at least heard of one of the things that he's done. But he did this Plastic Man series back, several years ago. I think it was from the early 2000s. And this is interesting because it comes with this rubber band so hence the rubber banded. And this holds the book closed instead of having a dust jacket, so you can see it kind of sits over that. And I want to show some of the interior artwork. To me, it's kind of reminiscent of Ren and Stimpy from Nickelodeon. You have a very cartoony style of art from this series that reminds me a lot of those older cartoons. And for some people it might be a turnoff. Some people might not enjoy that type of artwork in their books, but I think it works perfectly for Plastic Man, given the kind of character that he is and his kind of attitude, his, you know, kind of joking personality and stuff. I think it works really well in this series, and I absolutely loved what I read of this series in the 2 older paperbacks that I was mentioning, and I cannot wait to be able to reread that material and read the rest of this for the first time. This is something that, like I said, I am so excited that it finally got published. I never thought that I'd see the day. I never thought I'd see basically this deluxe edition, basically an omnibus of Kyle Baker's Plastic Man. But here we are in 2020, of all things, we got Plastic Man. And one last book from DC. This is a old Vertigo book, but of course the Vertigo label is gone now, so everything Vertigo is getting labeled as DC Vertigo, or some of the stuff is getting relabeled as DC Black Label. This one keeps the DC Vertigo label on the bottom, and that is Lucifer Volume 2 Omnibus. And they also put the Sandman Universe branding across the top, which is the branding that they use in all the current Sandman Universe series, like the Dreaming, Books of Magic, House of Whispers, and stuff like that. This collects the second half of Mike Carey and Peter Gross's Lucifer series. I'm very excited. There was some worry that this one might have been canceled. It did not get canceled, and we finally have it. I'm very excited to have this. Lucifer is a fascinating character and one of the best parts of the Sandman Universe books, and he's proven to continue to be a fascinating character and a fantastic part of the Sandman Universe with his current Lucifer series that is going to be wrapping up soon. So if you're a fan of the Sandman and you've never read Lucifer, I highly recommend it. I haven't read the entire series just yet. I've only read part of the first omnibus, but it is brilliant, and yeah, I highly recommend it. This is a pretty big book. This collects specifically issues 36 through 75 of the ongoing series, as well as a Lucifer story from House of Mystery Halloween Annual number 2. Let's take a look at the binding here. It does creak and crack a little bit, which is generally true for a lot of DC books, which is disappointing, but as long as you take good care of your books, it should be fine in the long run. It does have not much gutter loss, very, very little gutter loss there. And then let's just take a quick look at how it looks when you open it. Yeah, you can hear that creaking and cracking. So as long as I take care of this book, we'll be fine. As long as I'm not tossing it around and pulling the cover and stuff, we shouldn't worry about anything ripping, breaking, or the binding coming loose. And if it does, there's always techniques, library binding techniques to fix that kind of stuff. So anyway, very excited to finally have the second half of Lucifer. The next big Sandman Universe omnibus that we're going to be seeing is the Books of Magic omnibus. I think that's either next month or January, but we've seen images of that one. It does exist. Some comp copies were sent to, I think, Peter Gross, of that book. That should be the first of another 2-volume set, so hopefully DC doesn't sleep on that and does release the second volume, because Books of Magic is something that I've never had the chance to read any of before, and I'm very excited to get to read that. Now, let's jump into my Marvel stuff. I've got a stack of heavy Marvel books here, starting with the most recent release that I received. I actually just got this yesterday, I think. That is Thanos, the Infinity Saga Omnibus. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, what is this? What is the Infinity Saga Omnibus? Specifically, this is the most recent Thanos material that Jim Starlin has written, along with art from Ron Lim and Alan Davis. Now, this collects 6 original graphic novels, as well as 3 different miniseries. So this collects basically the first trilogy of miniseries was, because I haven't memorized the names, was the Thanos Infinity Revelation, Thanos Infinity Relativity, and the Infinity finale. Now, between those, we saw Thanos versus Hulk 1 through 4, and then Infinity Entity 1 through 4. Thanos versus Hulk was supposed to be the third arc of the Savage Hulk series, but Savage Hulk got canceled, and that got turned into its own miniseries instead. Following that, he did the Guardians of the Galaxy Mother Entropy miniseries, it was 5 issues, and then he did one more trilogy of original graphic novels, the Infinity Siblings, the Infinity Conflict, and the Infinity Ending. I've never read the latter half. I didn't read the second trilogy that he did, so that's going to be a first-time read for me with this omnibus. But the previous stuff, if you're a fan of Starlin, if you're a fan of Thanos, you're going to find stuff to enjoy from this book. And I do suggest people who are fans of that character to definitely add this to their collection. We do have the Infinity Crusade omnibus coming out, I think next year, early in the year, I think January or so. So look forward to that to add to your Thanos shelf. If you're like me, I've got all of those Infinity books. And hopefully we see another book that collects some of that Infinity material that Starlin wrote between Crusade and this one. It was just a bunch of smaller miniseries like Abyss and stuff like that. Anyway, moving on, the next Marvel book we've got here is one whose quality is a little bit more divisive, and that is the Venom Omnibus Volume 3. Now, I've got the Sam Keith cover here. There was also a variant cover with Mike Deodato Jr. art on there that featured Venom's tongue just across the cover like that. Either way, great covers. And honestly, when are you ever going to see a Sam Keith cover on a Marvel Omnibus? So it's very cool to see that for this volume. Now, the main feature that this collects is the entirety of Dan Way's Venom series. It was an 18-issue Venom series that honestly didn't really feature Eddie Brock, but it featured the symbiote in a story that was very inspired by The Thing, the classic movie, the sci-fi horror film. This also collects a bunch of other material featuring Venom, including, I'm just going to read it off the bat because I haven't memorized that, Peter Parker Spider-Man 9 and 10, as well as 16 and 17, Nova number 7, Amazing Spider-Man number 19, Spectacular Spider-Man 1 through 5, Venom number 1 through 18, like I mentioned, Venom vs. Carnage 1 through 4, which is also in the Carnage Omnibus, Marvel Knights Spider-Man 7 and 8, and 11, Sensational Spider-Man 38 through 39, Spider-Man Fantastic Four number 2, and material from Amazing Spider-Man number 12, Peter Parker Spider-Man 12, and Spider-Man Family number 1 through 2. So we have a bunch of different material in here, basically chronicling everything that was going on with Eddie, all the way through the point where he loses the symbiote, and it goes over to Mac Gargan in the pages of the Marvel Knights Spider-Man series. So it doesn't go directly. There's another user that's in between Eddie and Mac, but it does feature when Mac does get the costume. So this is fun for all Venom fans. I know there's a lot of y'all out there. So this is a really fun book. It's not the best material, but neither, if we're being honest with ourselves, neither is the material from the first 2 Venom Omnibus. But I'm hoping that this leads towards Venom Omnibus 4, which would basically be the Agent Venom Omnibus, featuring the whole Rick Remender Agent Venom series, maybe also including the Cullen Bunn follow-up material to that. So if this brings us to that, then I'm all for it, but I'm a big Venom fan, so of course I had to grab this. And I know a lot of people that grew up the same time that I did are also big Venom fans, and it's just, you gotta have it. You gotta have it. Oh, this book was hiding. This was another DC book that I got real quick, just a young reader graphic novel, Swamp Thing Twin Branches. If you know me, you know I love Swamp Thing and I have to get anything Swamp Thing related, so I had to add this one to my collection. I haven't read it just yet, but I'm looking forward to, because I love reading anything new, anything exciting and new regarding Swamp Thing as a character. Anyway, moving on to my next Marvel book. This is another one that I've been really excited about. I'm a big fan of the Hulk as a character, so it was really awesome to see Peter David's run on the character getting omnibus treatment. This is the second volume. This is the variant edition of the second volume of Peter David's run on Hulk. Now, the third volume has already been announced, and the first volume is getting a reprint. So sales on these Peter David Hulk books are definitely good, which is a great sign for any of us Hulk fans out there, because if one Hulk book is going to sell well, then Marvel is probably going to feel pretty good about releasing more Hulk books. Not just Peter David Hulk books, but maybe other stuff for like Bill Mantlow's run, or if you're a fan of Bruce Jones's run like I am, then maybe one of those. Probably something collecting Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk run once it's done, maybe some more stuff collecting the rest of Greg Pak's material. I could go on and on and on. I should probably make a separate video specifically about my Hulk wish list as far as Hulk Omnis go. But in the meantime, I'm really excited to have this second volume. Should be a set of 5 volumes for Peter David's Hulk. He had a really, really long run with the character. So we're already have 3 out of those 5 solicited. So hopefully the sales on the 3rd one continue to be as good and we can get the 4th and 5th ones released without worry. And that brings me down to the last book, and this is the biggest book physically that I have, and that is the War of Realms Omnibus. I did get the Dauterman hardcover variant on this one. Actually, I think this is the standard. The variant was the Adams cover, I think is what it was. So I did get the Dauterman cover on this one. This collects all of War of Realms. This is the entirety of that event. War of Realms, I have to put it down because it's so heavy. War of Realms basically is the conclusion, the big climax to Jason Aaron's run on Thor. So if you had been reading his Thor run throughout the whole God of Thunder thing with Gore the God Butcher, and you read throughout all the stuff where we saw Jane Foster come in and take over as Thor for a good amount of time, and then the stuff where Thor comes back after being unworthy, and he comes back with a nice looking beard and a gold arm and the nice new hammer and all that stuff. This is the material that all leads into. This Omnibus collects every tie-in. It doesn't collect the Aftermath stuff. It does not collect King Thor or the Loki miniseries or the follow-up Punisher miniseries. It also does not collect the Valkyrie series that came out of this. Maybe we'll get those collected somewhere else down the line, but it does collect everything for that event itself. At this point, Jason Aaron Thor Omnis are basically a given. They're going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I wanted to get this because even if the main event is collected in those Jason Aaron Thor Omnis, I still loved I've read every single page of this. I've read every single tie-in. I loved many of those tie-ins. The tie-ins range from basically being good to great. In my opinion, there's nothing less than good in this book. So it's a great one. I know this one has gone out of print already. I'm hoping that Marvel has decided that they'll go ahead and print it again, because this one went out of stock real fast, like same day it released fast. But I'm happy to have it on the shelf. I'm happy to have this awesome event. This is Marvel events done right, in my opinion. So yeah, that's it. That's my haul for this time. A lot of big and exciting books. Now my room is a mess all around me, but that's okay. I'll clean it up after this. Thank you so much for joining me in talking about these new books. Some exciting new things. Let me know which books you grabbed in October and what you've gotten so far in November. I've got a bunch of other things that are coming right now. We just had a massive week of releases for November. So I've got a bunch of things happening, and that's going to go into my next haul video. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around. If you are new to my channel, then definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. Usually my channel is not all haul videos. I talk about other stuff as well. So if you enjoy comics, you enjoy manga, you enjoy anything related to the geeky stuff, follow me. Follow me and watch my videos because you'll enjoy what I do. Anyway, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, make some comments in there, let me know how you're feeling, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.